As of yesterday, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, finds herself not merely in reverse gear, but perilously close to being overtaken by her own backbenchers. What began as a principled austerity move, removing universal winter fuel payments from millions of pensioners, has become a symbol of political misjudgment. And now, with Starmer announcing a probable U-turn at Prime Minister's questions, the question is no longer whether the policy will change, but how painful the climb down will be and how it will be paid for, how it will be presented. Rachel Reeves introduces the means testing of winter fuel payments last July, claiming it was necessary to plug the fiscal black hole left by the Conservatives. This slashed eligibility from 11.4 million to 1.5 million pensioners, saving around £1.3 billion annually. But this policy has quickly became politically radioactive, and Labour's unexpectedly poor performance in the May local elections, including the loss of Runcorn and Helsby, was widely blamed on this pension cut. Diane Abbott compared it to the poll tax, and in electoral terms, she may be right. The policy cut through in all the wrong ways. Faced with rising discontent within his own party, therefore, Starmer used PMQs yesterday to signal a probable reversal. He cited economic improvement and promised that more pensioners would be made eligible for winter fuel payments. But crucially, he deferred the detail to a fiscal event, likely the autumn budget. It's a partial U-turn, politically loud, economically vague, and conditional. Kemi Badenoch pounced, calling it a joke, and mocked Starmer's lack of clarity on who would benefit, when or how, though Kemi Badenoch didn't exactly make a great deal of noise about it because she didn't have it prepared because it wasn't written on her script. In her newscast interview, Reeves adopted the language of a listening government, but stuck to her core rule: every pound must be paid for. She's not admitted error, but she is clearly preparing the ground for change. The Treasury is now examining whether to raise the income threshold, currently around 11,800, or expand eligibility in other ways. The political sting, however, is already felt. This was one of Reeves's signature fiscal tightening moves, and abandoning it now weakens her credibility with markets, with party members, with fiscal conservatives alike. And then there's Angela Raina. Angela Raina, who appears increasingly keen to play the role of unofficial Chancellor. Well, that's better than her playing the role of unofficial Prime Minister. Which job does she actually want? That's the question. Because she is clearly on, as Kemi Badenoch called it yesterday, she's clearly on manoeuvres. A leaked memo from her office proposed tax rises to fund alternatives to spending cuts, and these included higher taxes on savings, limited welfare access for immigrants, and raising the NHS surcharge for non-citizens. The memo reveals a curious cabinet split. Raina is advocating left populist manoeuvres to fend off Reform UK and shore up Labour's support among disaffected working class voters. Reeves, meanwhile, remains shackled to her fiscal rules. No borrowing for day-to-day spending, and debt must fall within 5 years. This is not merely about £200 to £300 winter payments. It's about the integrity of the entire Reeves-Starmer economic strategy. If this flagship cut is abandoned under pressure, what happens to the far more controversial disability benefit reforms or the two-child cap? Already, over 100 Labour MPs are objecting to Reeves' plan on welfare, which could push over 250,000 people into poverty. In other words, this is not just a retreat, it could be the start of a rout. Starmer has refused to rule out tax rises in the autumn budget. Given the fiscal pressure, including a $300 billion welfare bill and rising inflation, this seems inevitable. Raina's suggestions on taxing savers, tightening pension access for immigrants, increasing health surcharges are now being weighed seriously. Though some of these measures may save money only in the long term, they reflect the political need to be seen to be doing something to pay for this apparent generosity. Reeves and Starmer may hope that this U-turn will be seen as an instance of responsive pragmatism, but it risks appearing as indecision under pressure. And the longer the government dithers on specifics, the more it looks rudderless. Lib Dem leader Ed Davies already accused them of turning slower than a tanker. And worse, this moment has emboldened factions within the Labour Party to mount further challenges to Reeve's spending controls because she is looking chaotic, out of control, and out of support. If she cannot enforce discipline on relatively palatable cuts like winter fuel payments, she will struggle to push through the harder decisions ahead. What we're seeing is more than a policy U-turn. It's a public contest between fiscal caution and social justice, with Rachel Reeves and Angela Raina acting as the ideological avatars of each camp. Reeves trying to preserve credibility with the markets, Raina seeking to preserve Labour's soul. And this could be Labour's most defining moment since taking office. What began as a quiet policy correction could become the test of where the Reeves model of cautious economic stewardship can withstand the populist and moral demands of a restless parliamentary party. Whether it ends in a balanced budget or in a bitter internal collapse may depend on what Rachel Reeves does next. One's reminded of the old Keynes adage, when the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir? The question now is whether Reeves and Starmer are changing their minds because the facts have changed or merely because the votes have.